Today we're going to be talking about, does it make sense to buy a house when you're PCSing? This is specifically for military families. It was a request that I received. So if you're new to the channel, I'm a mortgage lender. My team's licensed in 50 states. We've been ranked the #1 VA loan officer in America for the last 2 years for purchases. So what that means is this is something I look at, my team looks at every single day. There's no yes or no. Okay, sometimes people expect, especially I'm a mortgage lender, they expect me to say, yes, you should buy a house every time you PCS. It's not that simple, okay? Here's what I would suggest. Now, look, grand scheme of things, if you're receiving BAH, would it be better if you were putting it towards something that could create wealth for you in the future? Yeah, always. I mean, that's the basics of home ownership, right? You know, with rent, you give the landlord money, but you're not really building anything. With a house, you're building equity, okay? Now, do I think that every single base you should buy a house? No, here's why. Whenever you buy a house, especially if you're going to be moving within a few years, it's an investment and you need to think about it as such. You know, yes, if you have children, you need to think about the school districts if you're not going to homeschool them. You need to think about what you want. You also need to think about, hey, is this an area we're going to want to come back to? Because that's one of the things I see a lot is I'll see that, let's say someone's stationed in San Antonio and they know they're going to PCS somewhere else in a couple years, but they know that ultimately that's where they want to live. Yeah, they should buy that house now. Okay. And the reason's this, if you look at a housing chart over the last 30 years, the general trajectory's up. The only glitch in that matrix was 2008. And historically, you know, that's why we always make the jokes about, you know, how boomers bought a house for like $10,000 and a soda and they just sold it for $500,000. Real estate traditionally goes up. So getting in at an earlier time is better, okay? Here's what I would suggest. I would suggest that if you're like, okay, we're gonna be stationed in Colorado Springs. So I just got back from Colorado Springs for the first time. I love that market. I was looking for houses. My son's like, Mom, like you need to ease off. I'm like, I love this area. Here's why I'm saying that. So when I'm looking at an area, and what I would challenge you guys to do is when you're thinking about a house, yes, it's a home, it's a place for your family, you know, all of that is very important. But if you're buying, you also want to think as an investment. You want to think about, okay, we're going to have to leave here in a few years. Are we going to be able to rent this property? For the long run, are people going to continue to come to this area? Is it likely the housing prices will go up further, okay, over time? You know, there's not many areas of the country where I'm like, yeah, if you buy it on year 1, on year 3, you'll make XYZ. That doesn't exist. It's going to depend on what goes on in the market. You know, we saw values across the country jump dramatically from 2020 to 23, and we've seen still some increases, but it's more level now. And I think the world we're in now is more realistic. Like 20 to 23 was crazy, guys. It was crazy. That's not normal. So if you're expecting to see gains like that, it's not, like, don't fool yourself, okay? So Colorado Springs, I look at it and I go, okay, investor hat on, ton of bases. So I know that's gonna continue to go on. There's other industries besides the bases. You know, there's a lot going on. You know, you've got dining, you've got all these cute little different downtown areas. The nature element was a big driver for me too, where I'm like, this is solid. You know, Garden of the Gods, fly fishing, you know, there's so much to do there. Seven Falls, have you guys seen that place? Crazy. There's so much to do there that I think that beyond, you know, military bases, I think it's a great second, you know, vacation home, tourist destination, honestly. And personally, when I'm looking at properties, I ultimately want to buy a place where I know people are going to want to come. Location, 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 because that's going to be what makes sure my money's safe. Okay. So I look at somewhere like Colorado Springs and someone may go, but Jen, the rents are lower than what the mortgage will be. Yeah, but it's not going to be like that forever. Now look, if you're really strapped financially, then, you know, and you know you're going to definitely be PCSing again, you do want to take into consideration, can you bridge the difference if you rent it out and you can't make as much as your mortgage? Or would you be able to sell? This is stuff you're going to want to talk to your real estate agent about up front, okay? Really important. But if I look at that area over 5-10 years, I go, this will pencil out. But I'm thinking long term. So you need to look at your finances to see what's going to benefit you and what leeway you have. You don't want to get into a position where you're like, gosh, we really want to rent it, but we can only rent it for this, the mortgage is this, and we just can't swing it. You want to figure that out before you buy, okay? So I look at markets, that's a market I like. You know, I see a lot of people who buy in San Antonio, El Paso, because they're looking at Texas and they're going, no income tax. You know, we've seen so many people move into the state of Texas and Florida because of the no income tax, that you do still see values going up in most places, okay? So the other thing to think about is this somewhere people want to be, okay? We talked about why Colorado Springs was. There are some bases that I've heard about where people are like, oh, I got sent to the worst place. No one wants to go there. Drop it in the comments. You know, don't buy there. Don't buy there, rent. If your initial reaction to an area is revulsion, don't buy there, okay? Don't buy there. You know, really make sure you're being mindful of, okay, how do people feel when they get assigned here? If people are happy, I would feel safer with my investment. And yes, I know people don't have a choice, but ultimately, if you're buying around the military, you want to make sure there's going to be other industries there as well. And bonus, if there's some level of tourism, that just makes your money a little bit safer. So those are the things I think about. You do want to make sure that you're talking to your real estate agent and your lender upfront about this. So for example, Sahar, she's an amazing real estate agent in Houston. Recently, she sent a client to us. They weren't active, but they were military, a veteran. And he's like, look, I want to buy a house. I'm only going to live there for a year and I'm going to want to sell it. I'm like, you're not going to make enough equity to sell it that quickly. You know, that's the thing, is that you want to make sure you're working with people that are going to shoot it straight. You know, and he talked to her and she's like, yeah, she's like, look, with the way the market is, like expecting to make a good chunk in a year is not realistic right now. So that's something you want to be talking to the real estate agents and the lenders about, but then also talk to your peers. You know, I have one client where he's buying properties, if you were renting it to one family, you wouldn't make as much, but he rents out rooms. He does. He rents out rooms to single military members that have BAH, and you know, they're getting their whole BAH, they're putting that towards the rent, but then they're also investing the other half. Everybody's winning. That way he's getting more for the property to cover his mortgage. So look, I've seen people build pretty incredible real estate portfolios throughout their military careers. But they don't just buy without researching. You want to research the area, research the potential, talk about potentially what you could rent it for or what's a realistic appreciation for the market, get all your ducks in a row, and if everything looks great, buy, okay? I hope this video was helpful. Questions, comments, as always, reach out. The team and I are here to help you. 786-933-2077. We're happy to help you guys plan, whether it's this year, next year, 5 years from now, or if you're like, what about this? We'll always give you our honest opinion. So I appreciate you watching. Have a lovely day.